Mambo family, this is your brother, Team Africa Worldwide, spokesman for We Charge Colonialism. We Charge Colonialism is an organization that shines light on the fact that Africans in the United States are living in a situation of internal colonialism. With that being said, the topic of today is Africa is a country. Um, those of you who may check out my page, I've done a video by this title before, but this is going to be a little bit different and more in depth. And for people who think that this guy, Team Africa Worldwide, is very uneducated, why did he just say Africa is a country? It's not a country, it's a continent. It's a continent. Most people learn that Africa is a continent in elementary school, probably second or third grade. So whenever you tell a person that Africa is a continent, you aren't educating them at all. I'm not impressed with that. If you wanted to impress somebody, tell them that Europe is not a continent. Take a look at a map and think that one over. Let's talk about another continent, Australia. Australia is also a country. When you refer to Australia as a country, nobody ever says, no, no, it's a continent. Why? Because a continent can be a country. Okay, with that being said, I want to explain something to some people who may not know. We always brag about the diversity of the continent, how it has 52, 53, 54, 55 countries, depending on who you ask. And we talk about the diversity of all of the different tribes and the diversity of all of the languages. Okay. And we, jump up and down about this like it is something great to be applauded. My question is, are we winning? What are we benefiting from by being so diverse? Um, these national borders that exist on the continent were created by Europeans at the Council of Berlin in Germany. Um, there was no Africans present when they took out a map and drew lines and decided which parts of the continent they were going to colonialize. French gets this part, um, France gets this part, the UK gets this part, Germany gets this part. That's what they did. And even though the borders have changed a little, with most recently South Sudan separating from Sudan, the majority of the borders are the same borders that the European enemies drew at the Council of Berlin. Even most of the names. Do you think that Gabon is an African word? No, that's a Portuguese word that means cloak. Do you think Cameroon is an African word? No, that's a French word that means shrimp because there was a lot of shrimp in the water when they arrived to the area that they call Cameroon. We didn't name South Africa because we are way more creative than that. We didn't name Nigeria. Um, Ghana used to be called the Gold Coast. Now we call it Ghana, which is great. We took the name that um, was from the Ghana Kingdom that existed previously, but it was located a little bit more to the northwest. Uh, Ethiopia. That's a name that was created by Greeks to describe uh, all of Africa. And Abyssinia eventually became Ethiopia. Uh, Egypt is a Greek word. And I can go on and on. Some of the African countries who have um, African names, um, the Europeans still decided on what those names was going to be. And then once once the African countries started getting their independence in the 1960s. Some of them kept their names and some of them updated their names. Most recently, Zaire became Congo after the Kingdom of Congo. And we can go on forever. Rhodesia became Zimbabwe. Okay, Tanzania and and Zanzibar joined to become one country and became Tanzania. I am actually older than some of these countries. So, why are we so nationalistic? We should actually be thinking of these countries as states. But for the invasion by uh, the Europeans and the Arabs, I have no doubt in my mind that Africa will be consolidated under one government by now. It was already happening prior to colonialization. There were only about maybe 10 kingdoms at the most on the continent. And uh, through conquest, nations were being um, um, annexed by other nations, and it wasn't always um, through war. And and that was in the West, and that happened in the East. And even today, we have these economic blocks like ECOWAS and the EAC. So that goes to show that even amongst today's leadership, even if there's maybe some corruption among some of the leaders, there is still a desire to come together. And so it's like we need to just really stop with all of the division. We're not benefiting from it. Everybody knows that the universe respects numbers. The universe is mathematic. And so if you have one stick, you can just break it easily. But if you have several sticks tied together, you'll probably break your leg trying to break those sticks. And that's just the way it is. And as long as I'm an African American, I'm a Jamaican, I'm Black British or African British, I'm a Nigerian, I'm a Kenyan, I'm Ugandan. Um, we will continue to lose. We're losing now, and if we want to continue to lose, all we have to do is continue with this route. Um, uh, some of the other things besides national borders that divide us is politics, religion, um, and language. And of the three I just mentioned, I believe that language is the easiest problem to resolve. Of course, if you and I can't communicate with one another, then we won't consider ourselves to be the same people. And then what's even more odd is that sometimes, um, in a lot of cases, one African from the same country will have to talk to his fellow countrymen using a European language, using English, using French, using Portuguese, or maybe even using Arabic, uh, which can be dated and debated whether or not in ancient times it was an African religion. Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter anymore because we know that the Arabs are no longer African, at least not the vast majority of them. And the majority of them have become enemies based on their history and their current treatment of Africans, even to this day. So, with that being said, like I said, we really need to come together. I think language is the easiest way. You may notice that in all of my videos, I start off with a Kiswahili greeting and I end the video in Kiswahili. That's how I close out. And the reason I picked Kiswahili is because one is a pretty easy language to learn. Two, it's the most widely spoken language on the continent. I realize that more people speak Hausa. However, don't too many people outside of Nigeria speak Hausa. Um, Kiswahili is spoken in several countries: Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Congo, parts of Mozambique, and I've heard that recently South Africa has agreed to add Kiswahili to its curriculum. Some of you may ask, what's the difference between Swahili and Kiswahili? There is no difference. Um, Swahili means coast. Kiswahili means language of the coast. These other people, they always mispronounce everything and try to simplify and shorten everything. Um, so, like for instance, any language starts with Ki when you're speaking Kiswahili. So English is Ki Gereza. Um, and so that's longer, one syllable longer than English. See, isn't it interesting how Africans we add to their culture rather than trying to take away from it? But with that being said, I know there are people who will say, um, well, they don't want to give up their native language. Nobody said give up your native language. A lot of people who speak Kiswahili, they may have a mother tongue and a father tongue, but they use Kiswahili to speak to other Africans who are not of their tribe. So you can be proud of your language, you can keep your language, but you can use Kiswahili to speak to other Africans. And I find it odd sometimes when I greet West Africans in Kiswahili. They become a little offended and be like, "Oh, I'm from West Africa." Okay, so you have a problem with me speaking to you in the East African language, but you have no problem with me speaking to you in English. Okay, you think that one over. We we're cool all day talking to each other in English and French and Arabic, but as soon as someone suggests that you try to learn a language from your fellow African, then all of a sudden this is a problem. Just think that over and ask me, does it make any sense? Um, Personally, I became introduced with to Kiswahili when I learned about the African American holiday called Kwanzaa. Um, Kwanzaa means first, and in the holiday, it is short for first fruits or first harvest, and it's spelled with two A's in the end for African American. And there's 7 days of the week in Kwanzaa, and they use seven words to describe each day. And so that was my first introduction. And a lot of people actually named their daughters after some of these days, such as Nia, which means purpose, and Imani, which means faith. And you'll hear those names a lot in the African American community. Um, Arabic does have influence from other languages. The language that influences the most is Arabic, but that's okay because every language has influences from other languages, including English. Um, a lot of words in English come from French. A lot of the words come from Latin. There are actually words that come from Kiswahili that are English, such as they misuse it, but they say mambo jumbo. Mambo or jumbo those are greetings that mean how are you doing in Kiswahili. Same thing with safari. We think of safari as going out in a jeep, looking for animals, but safari simply means trip, to take a trip to travel in Kiswahili. Um, um, Jumbo, the game, the puzzle game, you keep putting the blocks on top of each other, trying to keep them from falling. Um, that game is called that because Jumbo means to build. That's all it means to build. So every language has an impact on other languages. So don't be discouraged saying that Kiswahili isn't a real African language. It is. It's a Bantu language. And the thing about that, Bantus are the largest group on the continent, but um, and so there are many Bantu languages. So if you learn Kiswahili, that will open the door to you learning other languages. Um, so I could go on and on about differences. I'll just say a little something. We need to focus on the things that we have in common. We always focus on the things that we don't have in common. We always, and a lot of times there's small little details, and we're like, oh, my people do this like this, and nobody else does it that way, and these people do their stuff like this, and no, let's not focus on those differences. Let's focus on what we have in common. A lot of times we think we don't have stuff in common when we do. Because I know it's sort of like gotten to the point where a lot of continentals think that African Americans come from families with no fathers, and like that's part of our culture. And it's not. I mean, this is just something that happened relatively recently, maybe within the past 40 years, and it was caused systematically by the U.S. government. If you go back to the 1960s, it was just as common for African American people to be married than anybody else in the world. We respected our elders, just like you do in Africa. And believe it or not, the more you applaud Westernism and the more you allow Western concepts to come to the continent, then these negativities are going to start creeping into your homes as well. And I can already see some of it. You know, a lot of people got mad about the Beyonce movie Black is King because they are not proud of pre-colonial African traditions. They are saying that, oh, they wear T-shirts and blue jeans and have cell phones, and it's like that means nothing. That doesn't make you modern. That just makes you a consumer. That just means that we're giving our money away to Europeans. They take the raw materials from Africa, then they make that stuff, and then they sell it back to us. And we want to be proud about that. You will never. I would doubt very seriously if a Chinese American made a movie about traditional China that Chinese in Asia would get mad at that. I doubt it very seriously because they're proud of their culture. Only people that would be ashamed of the past would have a problem with somebody paying homage to traditional culture. Um, so um, we have that culture in common um, on the continent and throughout the diaspora, and we should rally around that. In addition to that, I mean, it's just stuff like simple stuff like dance. I mean, if you really watch dance throughout the diaspora, you can see that the moves that come natural, they come from the continent. Food, I mean, it's just like um, is ugali and kale that much different from collard greens and cornbread? Is you know that ugali and cornbread so much different from fufu? I mean, yeah, they have different tastes, they have different textures, but it's similar. It's the same. It's the same concept. You know, my people might eat um, bottom feeders called catfish, which tastes good but aren't good for you. And a lot of people on the continent eat tilapia, which tastes good but aren't good for you. We are the same people, so we need to rally around the similarities and not concentrate on the differences, and understand that we are not winning with this whole diversity thing. We're not winning saying Africa is a continent and We have 55 countries, and we got different cultures, and we have different languages that we're losing. That's losing. We need to consolidate. We need to consolidate. The world has never seen a unified Africa. When the world sees a unified Africa, the whole world will change. When we unify, we will change this thing overnight. I don't care about weapons. I don't care about militaries or none of that. If we all unite, we will be okay. We will be okay. You know, these people aren't crazy enough to drop nukes on the continent and destroy the whole continent. That would probably destroy the whole earth. So don't fear that stuff, as Bob Marley would say. Do not fear that. So the thing is, we need to come together and be one people. Stop all this nationalism, stop all this tribalism, stop all this continental versus diaspora, this African American versus Caribbeans. We need to stop all that because diversity is not the way. I'm not telling anybody not to be proud of their heritage, their culture, their tribe. You can keep that, but know at the end of the day that people outside of your nation, your culture, and your tribe are still your brother and sister. You know, don't be holding hands with a European Christian or Asian Muslim before you hold hands with your African brother or sister. You know, and I think this video is long enough. I think we got the point. I'm going to keep saying Africa is a country until that becomes a reality. Africa is a country. So, Asante Sana for watching, and Kwaheri Kwasasa. Goodbye for now.